This is Reverend Don Lewis coming to you from the beautiful metaverse, and more specifically, beautiful Danville, Illinois, homeland of the Correllian tradition. And this is Midday with Reverend Don. As you know, we do this every weekday. If you follow Midday with Reverend Don, you will know that we can communicate directly through my chat room. You simply type whatever questions or comments you may have on whatever platform you're watching on, and they will appear here in my chat room, and we can speak directly to one another, which is one of my favorite parts of this broadcast. Today, we're going to be continuing our discussion about the crystal web and the Fighting for Freedom New Moon ritual. Hello to Melanie in the chat room. It's good to see you, Melanie. And probably a bit about the Parliament of the World's Religions in general. It is almost upon us. People are converging on Chicago, even as we speak, for the Parliament of the World's Religions. I will be heading toward Chicago tomorrow. Hello to Janet in the chat room. But I will be having special broadcasts both Saturday and Sunday of Midday with Reverend Don, continuing probably in a slightly shorter format, our discussion about the Fighting for Freedom New Moon ritual and the crystal web. Hello to Mary in the chat room. Hello to Raven in the chat room. It's good to see you. As you know, yesterday we worked on the Embodying crystal. We'll probably talk about that a little bit more today. Hello to Antonio in the chat room. Hello to Lynn in the chat room. And I also asked people if they were willing to bring their tarot cards today. And I'm going to ask if you have brought your tarot cards and you're willing to draw a card, that you will indicate in the chat room. And we will see what people have to say. And hello to Renee in the chat room. I did bring my own tarot cards, so I will certainly draw a few of them myself during the program. Parliament is a very exciting time, and it is unlike anything else. It will begin with a parade on Sunday, and I am very much looking forward to the parade. It has morphed out of the opening procession that is traditional for the Parliament. And this year it's going to be an actual parade in downtown Chicago, which I think is just amazing. And I think it will be a lot of fun. It is certainly something I have never quite done before. So we'll see. I have been in parades before. I've been in the River City Pride Parade in Jacksonville, which is very similar in that it actually is downtown Jacksonville, a serious parade. I've been in the Haunted Happenings Parade in downtown Salem. And you know, being in that sort of event is a lot of fun. My intention is to walk the entire route, which isn't all that terribly long. And if all goes well, you will see me do that. Now, Correllian News through Pagan World will be bringing you coverage of that parade and of the Parliament. And the Correllian Press Corps has something like 16, 18 people in it at this point. Ed and Mary, Sir Ed Hubbard, Rev Mary Hawk, were talking about this last night on Tarot Thursday. And you can see announcements of it on various platforms today. But it's going to be an exciting time. And one of the big things that we will be taking part in is the Fighting for Freedom New Moon ritual, which we've talked about the last couple of days, which will be on Tuesday, August 15th at 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern. And this is a ritual dedicated to the Parliament's call to conscience, which is defending freedom and human rights. And these are things that we care very much about, and we are hoping to focus the energy of the crystal web to help with this ritual and to help those energies. And I regard this really as a continuation of our long-term peace campaign. For years now, we've been working to promote the energies of peace and love versus the energies of hate and fear around the world. And I think this may be one of the strongest pushes in that direction yet. Yesterday, we talked about the Embodying crystal, which is a crystal that you can use in connecting to the crystal web. It's a remote access point of a a kind we've not used before. You carry it with you. You connect it to your crystal access points and thus to the web. And we did that yesterday. And you use it to put energy in and bring energy out as you need it. And I have mine right here, as you can see, small enough to carry in my pocket. And I'm going to suggest that once again, we hold our embodying crystals and just feel the energy in them. And the crystal web is currently in its 35th year. It was created by Sir Ed Hubbard and the Newcastle Society on 8/8 of 1988. So the anniversary was literally just days ago. And it includes many people from many different backgrounds. It's often associated with the Correllian tradition, but that's not where it originates, and it's never been limited to that. Although many, many Correllians do have crystal access points, and we do have orders within the Correllian tradition dedicated to working with the web, but the web itself has an origin outside of the tradition, and many people involved outside of the tradition, because anyone can be involved in the web. Lots of witch schoolers who were not necessarily members of the tradition have crystal access points. One of the things I've always thought was most remarkable is that we actually have two crystal access points in Antarctica, which were put there by members of the rotating population of Antarctica, which are only military and scientific personnel. But during the course of 20 years, at least two witch schoolers were there and created crystal access points. So the crystal web is actually all over the world. And hello to Tom in the chat room. Good to see you, Tom. And hello to Janet. And so when we open the crystal web, it really is all over the world. It is a global phenomenon. And it's a global phenomenon involving people from all kinds of different backgrounds. And what do you do with the web? Well, you can put energy into it for everyone and for the world itself. You can take energy out for yourself or your group. It's often used for healing, healing of particular areas, healing of the world as a whole. It's often used to promote those energies of love and peace. And hello to Sammy in the chat room. It can be used for anything you'd use energy for. It is, I dare to say, the largest psychic engine ever created. And it is, when it focuses all that energy in one direction, it is very formidable. So I'm hoping that by putting that energy behind the fight for freedom for marginalized people, that will actually have an effect. And hello to Millie in the chat room. Good to see you, Millie. I know that every now and then I have seen individuals overcome by the energy of the crystal web because it is simply so strong, and have to take a moment because it's stronger than what they've normally dealt with. It is a very significant creation. So let us become aware of our heart chakra, and let us become aware of our embodying crystal. And imagine a ball of white light in both of these things, and see that white light as strongly as you can. And in that white light, see peace and love and joy. And feel these energies. And from your heart, send forth a beam of white light to your embodying crystal. And through that beam of light, send some of that love and peace and joy into your crystal. And let that love and peace and joy fill the crystal, shining out from it in all directions like a beautiful white sun. And let it sit for a moment. Now let that flow reverse, and let that peace and love and joy come back into you. And then send it back into your crystal and let it set for a moment. And imagine the connections between your embodying crystal and the web. See them as beams of white light going to all of your access points, whether it's one or a dozen, and thence to the crystal web throughout the world. And as those beams of white light connect to your access points, see the access points awaken. See the access points in their cubes of light under the earth, and see those cubes fill with beautiful clear white light until they transform into tetrahedrons of light. And when that is happy, when that is open, the web is happy and ready to be used. And Mary says, I'm absolutely loving these, and I'm so sorry I can't be there in person with you at Parliament, but I am there in spirit, and I will be there at Lustration in Danville. That's wonderful. Thank you, Mary. And hello to Ravenwolf in the chat room. And see your crystal web access points open. And now, again, let the energy from your embodying crystal fill your access points, and let more light flow from your heart into the embodying crystal and through it to your access points. And see them shining with beautiful clear white light. You can pull into yourself the energies of the universe. Feel them coming down through your crown chakra and moving through your heart chakra, through your embodying crystal to your crystal access points, filling them with beautiful clear white light. Now, allow that flow to reverse and let the energy come back from the web to your crystal access points, to your embodying crystal, and into your heart, bringing you the energy of the crystal web. And in that energy is peace and love and joy. And let it fill your heart chakra. And feel how this works. It will be important at that ritual. And now, let it sit. And I'm going to put the crystal down for a moment because we were going to draw some cards. And I'm going to draw the first. And I have with me my deck here. And usually I use the Tarot of Hecate, but today I'm going to use the Tarot of the Hoi Polloi, which is the very first tarot I ever owned. And you can see, well, maybe you can't see so well on camera, but they have considerable wear and tear on them. But they date from the 1970s. And they were published in 72. And I believe that's when I got them. So let me shuffle them up. And we're asking about the Fighting for Freedom ritual and what it has to say. And if you've brought your tarot cards, please let me know in the chat room and I'll ask you to draw a card as well. And these cards were given to me by my mother, Lavea. And I've drawn the Knight of Wands. And the Knight of Wands is a waiting period before something happens. And that's obviously where we stand right now, waiting for this to happen. And I'm going to draw a second card to go with that. I've drawn the Devil card. And the Devil card is unnecessary worry. I'm going to draw a third card. And I've drawn the Tower card, which is change. And what I would take that to mean is that this will be a totally transformative ritual, transformative for the world, transformative for those who are involved in it. And that transformation may not be immediate. It may involve a waiting period. Of course, there's also the waiting period between now and the ritual, but I think we will not see the effect immediately, but it will come, and it will come also with a lot of concern in the world for the changes it's bringing. But those concerns are unnecessary because the changes are good. And the result is the Tower. I'm going to draw one more, and then I'm going to ask you to share your cards. And I've drawn the Hermit. And to me, the Hermit represents seeking and finding. And so I would say that this will be quite a successful ritual. Now, we have several people who have brought their cards. And let me find the first one. Lynn, would you be kind enough to draw a card? Lynn has told us that they have brought their cards today. And tell us what it is in the chat room. And how you understand it. And Buhio says, bless you, Reverend Don. Thank you, Buhio. I appreciate that. That's very kind. And Buhio says, it's good to see you. It's good to see you too. And I love seeing everyone every day this way. You know, doing a daily broadcast has its difficulties, but it also has a lot of joy involved. One of the people I follow on Instagram is Diane Schiffer, whose entire page is about finding the joy in your life. And you know, I think that that's really what we need to do in life. And Lynn has drawn the Eight of Swords. And how do you interpret that, Lynn? And after this, Ravenwolf has brought their cards, and we'll have Ravenwolf draw the next one. In fact, Ravenwolf, if you'd like to go ahead and draw, while we're waiting for Lynn to tell us how they take this card, you'll be ready when we call on you. And hello to Aiden in the chat room. Good to see you, Aiden. And I'm hoping that Lynn will tell us how they interpret the Eight of Swords. I can certainly tell you how I interpret it, but everyone interprets differently. But I guess I'll go ahead and tell you how I interpret it while we're waiting for Lynn. Hello, Jeanette in the chat room. Good to see you, Jeanette. To me, the Eight of Swords is feeling held back by circumstances. And you know, that certainly, I think, is true for how people feel about affecting something like human rights. We feel like there's not much we can do because it's such an issue in the world. And that's why a ritual like this is important. It allows things to be done. Ravenwolf, would you like to draw your card? And Lynn, as soon as you're ready, tell us how you interpret that Eight of Swords. And Ravenwolf has drawn the Four of Wands. And Ravenwolf, would you be kind enough to tell us how you interpret the Four of Wands? And it's an interesting selection of cards we're getting. They're not, oh, and Lynn says, her hands are tied in chains and she is blindfolded. Does this mean she moves somehow on blind intuition? Oh, that's a very interesting way of looking at it. So if I understand what Lynn is saying, she's taking this to mean trust your intuition and realize you may not be able to see the effect of what you're doing, but trust yourself to do it. And that makes perfect sense with any piece of magic, really, but especially something like this. We won't see when we do it what the effect is. We're sending out our energy, and we have to trust it will be successful. Thank you, Lynn. That's a wonderful interpretation of the Eight of Swords. Ravenwolf says, for the Four of Wands, it's a celebration, an expression of freedom and release followed by a sense of jovial energy. And perhaps now that we've released energy, we'll experience freedom from the binds that no longer hold. And thank you, Ravenwolf. Does anyone else have their cards with them today? What I'm getting from the cards we're looking at is that this will be a powerful ritual, will be a successful ritual, but it also, in a way, is sending our energy out into the world, knowing it's going to take a while to achieve such a large goal, and not necessarily understanding everything that's involved in that. But how could we? We're talking about changing the world itself. We have to, as Lynn says, move on blind intuition, trust the efficacy of what we're doing. And, you know, I'm a person who's done that so often in my life. I'm a great believer in following spirit. I've been accused of magical thinking, which, you know, I'm a witch, surprise. Uh, but I'm a great believer in trusting that intuition. I'm only human, so I can't say I've always done that, but I've always been mindful of it and tried. You know, sometimes we're overwhelmed by human nature. But I always recommend trusting your intuition, trusting where spirit leads you. And in this case, we have to trust that the energy we're raising and sending out is going to achieve the purpose that we're raising it for. You know, that night, we're not going to see any difference. Or at least I'd be utterly amazed if something came on the news that night so quickly that reflected a growth of freedom in the world. It's going to be a time release type of thing. It will take its time. But that doesn't mean we don't do it. We have to send it out there. We need to keep sending it out there. Now, Ravenwolf drew a second card. What is that, Ravenwolf? What is your second card? And I'm going to take up my Embodying crystal again. Second card is the Ten of Wands. And would you be kind enough to interpret that for us, Ravenwolf? And hello to the Dusty Dud. It's good to see you. And through the beam of light between my heart chakra and the embodying crystal, I'm just going to breathe in and out energy, breathing it into the crystal web and breathing it back from the crystal web. I send it through my heart, through the embodying crystal to the web. I draw it back from the web through the embodying crystal to my heart. And the Dusty Dud asks, is this Q&A? No, actually, we're drawing cards for the Fighting for Freedom ritual coming up this Tuesday in Chicago. It's for this very particular purpose. But, you know, we might have a reading day at some point in the future. So Ravenwolf says that the Ten of Wands, to them, is going back and working on the same things, but with a better level of understanding. And through that work comes success. And, you know, I think that makes perfect sense for this ritual, that we're bringing a greater understanding to the future than we had in the past, that we're continuing the same work we've done because, you know, we've been working for freedom and human rights for decades in every way that we could. We've been doing the peace campaign for years now for the same purpose. Granted, I mean, the peace campaign is phrased slightly differently, but it's the same thing because there is no peace without freedom. So I'm going to ask you to use your embodying crystal to breathe in and out energy, just as I'm doing now. Breathing it in from the crystal web, and then breathing it back to the crystal web. Just feel it coming and going like the tide of the ocean, helping you to strengthen your connection to the web. And again, the purpose of the embodying crystal is for you to carry it with you. Unlike the remote access crystals that we've used in the past, it need not be on an altar, it should be in a pocket, or on a chain, or otherwise on your person. And use it to connect any time that you feel the need. Bring it in, bring it out. Bring it in, bring it out. And again, I'm going to have 2 special broadcasts this weekend talking a little bit more about this. And I'm sure that we will also talk more on our various platforms about the crystal web and the Fighting for Freedom ritual, which is coming on Tuesday, August 15th at 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern. And we'll be talking a lot more about it before we get there. I'm going to put down my embodying crystal for the moment. And I'm going to draw a couple more cards for this purpose. And Mary says that it's awesome and she's very excited. And I've drawn the Two of Swords, and that says no one of us is doing this alone. We're all in it together. Two of Swords is partnership. And a little bit of a balancing act, which whenever you have so many people in so many places is always true. And then I'm going to draw a second one. The Queen of Wands, which is a card of success and prosperity. It says to me that ultimately, this will be both an enjoyable and a successful ritual. I think it'll be very intense. And looking at the cards we've been drawing, I think they reflect that, but successful nonetheless. And the final card for the subject, the Queen of Coins, which is stability, prosperity, well-being. And it suggests going forward on a firm basis. And again, you know, no one ritual is going to accomplish this kind of purpose in one act. It's something we have to go forward with. It's something that we have to continue to work on. So when we get these cards that are saying that, you know, that's not really surprising. It's to be expected. But I want to thank you for joining me today. So I say I will be leaving for Parliament tomorrow, but I will also be doing a broadcast tomorrow. So watch for that. I'll see you then. I want to tell you I love you all. I love spending this time of day with you. I'm always glad to see you. And watch for lots and lots of coverage of Parliament from Karelian News and the Karelian Press Corps at the Parliament. And with that, let us close with our prayer, as we do each day. Divine Mother Goddess, Divine Father God, beloved ancestors, we ask you to be with us and to guide us as we go forward in working for freedom and defending human rights and bettering the world. Help us to be the change we want to see. Help us to make the world a better place. We ask you to guide us and to inspire us in this work. Beloved Mother Goddess, beloved Father God, beloved ancestors, we thank you with love and with respect. And knowing you're always with us, but from respect, we thank you for your presence, and may you be blessed now and always. And I thank you for your presence, and may you be blessed now and always. And I will see you tomorrow.